my name is Derek from Tomcat Gas Training and welcome to this video all about these. Well, what is it? Well, this is a flue off a condensing boiler. So this video is all about the positioning and the installation of these things, flues for room sealed appliances. But before we get into this video, please could you take some time to subscribe to my channel and don't forget to hit that notification bell because you want YouTube to tell you every time I upload videos. So, done enough fluffing and waffling now, so let's get on with part 2! Now, let's start part 2 off with classifications of flues according to our unsafe situations procedure IGEM G11. Now, what makes a flue ID? That is the question. So basically, it's quite simple. If a flue is terminated inside a building, it's immediately dangerous because it's putting products of combustion into that room. If the flue is missing, that also makes it ID because it's putting products of combustion into the room. And if it's putting products of combustion into the room because the flue is too close to an opening, that makes it ID. That's what makes flues ID. It's all about the products of combustion. If you think there's likelihood of products of combustion coming into that room, but it isn't coming in the room at the moment you are there, then it's at risk. It's not ID. So the main things that make a flue immediately dangerous is the products of combustion being within the room where the appliance is installed. So there are other things what make appliances ID, such as the wrong gas being fed to that appliance. But where flues are concerned, it's all about that products of combustion entering the room. So make sure you have a copy of IGEM G11 with you at all times so you can reference it to find out exactly what you need to do when you find these faults. Now let's have a look and see where flues and boundaries are concerned, because one thing we don't want to be doing is fitting a condensing boiler, pointing at somebody's house and the customer's neighbours complaining to building control that it's a pluming nuisance. So let's have a look at that then. Now, when installing a flue where there's a boundary concerned, then this is what you've got to be looking at. If there's no other terminals or no other openings into the building, that is. So here you can see if the flue is facing the actual boundary, like this one here, then it needs to be more than 600 away from it. And if the flue on this one here is running parallel with the boundary, then it's 300 millimeters. So we need to make sure that when we're installing flues where it's facing the boundaries, we need to make sure it's not going to be a pluming nuisance. Because like I've said, one thing you don't want is the neighbours complaining to building control that you've just installed a brand new boiler and it's encroaching onto their land and causing a pluming nuisance. So if we have a look at this drawing, you can see if the terminal is facing an opening into the building, it needs to be more than 2 meters away. And if you're using a deflector elbow, so like deflected it to 45 degrees, Worcester have a great design flue for that, we'll have a look at that in a minute, then it needs to be 600 mil on the 45, or you can reduce your distance by 50% if you measured straight across. Again, if that makes sense. So that's the terminals when they're facing boundaries. So this picture is a prime example of what I'm talking about. So the flue on the left hand side is a flue which is installed incorrectly because the garden belongs to the flue on the right hand side. So that flue on the left hand side is actually going straight over the boundary. So that is installed incorrectly. Also, flues facing each other have to be more than 1200 mil apart. Now it's hard to judge that from the picture, but I guess that is more than 1200 mil apart. So if you was going to install a new condensing boiler and the boiler on the left hand side is to be changed, then you can't put it there. You would have to go vertical. You couldn't even use a Plume Management Kit in this situation because you're actually over the boundary wall, unless the boundary wall is actually in between the wall and the window, which we don't know. So siting boilers like this are a big no-no. Now let's have a look at sealing these flues to the fabric of the building or the structure. Now GasSafe have produced Technical Bulletin 152 to help us with this, and also the manufacturer's instructions we will need to follow. Now, a lot of flues get sent with these kind of things. So this is a weather collar for the outside and this is a seal for the inside. Now what GasSafe are saying is, if this is a push fit elbow on here and it's not secured by screws, and you use these two seals either side of the wall, it can pull out. So what they're saying to do is, even though the manufacturer says this will stop products of combustion and rain entering the cavity, GasSafe are still saying you should sand and cement the flue inside and outside. Also, things like expanding foam aren't allowed because they're not weatherproof. Silicons, some silicons are not allowed neither because they shrink. So you have to check the manufacturer's instructions to see what materials you can use for sealing the wall. Sand and cement is perfect. It will secure the flue, it will stop it moving laterally so it gets pulled out from the flue elbow on the inside. So again, checking the manufacturer's instructions when sealing these flues is incredibly important. But like I say, if you need more information, refer to GasSafe's Technical Bulletin 152 and it will show you exactly what we need to do. Next thing we're going to look at is Plume Management Kit. And it's a Plume Management Kit, not get me out of an illegal installation kit, which a lot of guys seem to use them for. But they can become handy with things like being too close to boundaries and stuff like that. Now, I was talking about the Worcester flue system, and we've got one here. And if there's anything good about a Worcester, it's this flue system. So this is the terminal, and basically we've got two screws here, and if we twist it, you can see it spins, but it doesn't spin all the way around, and that'll become apparent in a minute. So those two Phillips screws there secure it and allow us to divert your products of combustion. So you can see this splits in two ways, so there's two securing clips. That's where it came off easy because I'd already undone it. So if I clip that back on in that direction, you can see now I can twist this flue to divert the products to the left, and I can also twist it and go straight up, and I can also twist it and go to the right. Note, it doesn't allow me to twist it downwards. So if this does go downwards, that means you've got your flue upside down. So this is amazing, and this is the only flue system I personally know of that has this. There are some manufacturers who give you a 45-degree elbow to deflect the end of the terminal itself. But how good is that? Can't get it wrong. So that's the built-in Plume Management Kit to this Worcester. Now I just said you can't get it wrong. Well, how wrong can I be? So we've got two Worcester flues here, one directly below another, and according to Worcester's manufacturer's instructions, these need to be 1.5 meters apart. And you can see they're not. And I have no clue why there's terminal guards around them, because they're way above 2 meters. But we've also got the deflector terminals, well, they're both pointing upwards. So there's nothing in the book to say if I or the engineer whoever installed these had angled the deflector to the left or to the right for the bottom one, that the measurement would be decreased. So in this situation we'd have to get in touch with Worcester to see what Worcester say about the situation. But what I would be doing in this situation would be at risking it because the bottom flue could actually be affecting the top flue. But again, I would seek advice from Worcester from this just to make sure that I'm okay to at risk it. If they say it's fine, then it's fine. But we would need that reassurance from the manufacturer. Now, at the beginning of this section, I said you cannot use a Plume Management Kit to get you out of an illegal installation, unless the manufacturer of that boiler tells you can do. So let's take Worcester again. Now there are some manufacturers who are the same as Worcester and some who are different. So again, read those manufacturer's instructions. And what they say about their Plume kit is what's behind me here. So if you've got this scenario where you've got a window and a door, if you put the flue in the centre between the window and the door and you've got 150 mil either side, from the side of the flue to the actual opening where it goes into the building, so it's not from the door or window frame, it's from the opening, you can then take your products of combustion part of the flue system 300 mil higher than the window or door opening. That's the flue length plus 300 above, not 300 above the actual flue itself, it's above the window. So not every manufacturer allows you to do this, so it's important and imperative that you do check this. So let's have a look at more measurements used for Plume Management Kits. So the first thing we're going to look at on the Plume Management Kit is the minimum length. So the minimum length for a Plume Management Kit is 500 millimeters. And that is because if you don't do the 500 millimeters, then you're changing the categorization of the flue system. Now on this picture you can see there's an elbow straight after the flue elbow. On some manufacturers they allow this, on other manufacturers they don't. So again, you must check the manufacturer's instructions. Now the maximum height for a Plume Management Kit will all depend on the manufacturer. And basically what the manufacturers of the boilers say is you cannot exceed the actual flue length designed for that boiler. So again, manufacturer's instructions are key here, but why the heck would you want to go 2, 3, 4 meters high with a Plume Management Kit? They're only there to stop a pluming nuisance. If you go more than 2 meters off the ground, you are effectively reducing pluming nuisance. And again, elbows on a Plume Management Kit will reduce the length of the flue. And again, depending on the manufacturer, a 90-degree bend on a Plume Management Kit could be 1.2 meters or even 1.5 meters. And again, 45-degree bends will reduce the flue length, either from 500 mil to 750 mil. It all depends on the manufacturer. Also on Plume Management Kits, the air inlet and the outlet must be in the same pressure zone. Pretty much like twin flue systems as well. So if we have a quick look here, so this one we've got here on the left hand side, we've got a Plume Management Kit coming up and we've got the terminal facing the roof, which is putting it out of the same pressure zone. So you've got to watch out for that. And then the other one on this side here is something like a Keston boiler, where it's a twin flue system, where it's drawing the air from one end of the building and putting the products of combustion out on the other. They've got to be in the same pressure zone. And finally, using a Plume Management Kit, like I said right at the very beginning, to get you out of an illegal installation. So if you get a conservatory and the flue flues into the conservatory, you cannot use a Plume Management Kit to take the products of combustion out through the conservatory roof and leave the air inlet in the conservatory. That's a complete no-no. So don't do it. Now, this is the standard glowworm plume management kit, and this front part on the old version used to clip in and used to cause problems leaking, but they've changed their FLUES system now, where it's just you're taking the terminal off and plugging in the elbow. So again, they're not standard, and you can't use a glowworm plume management kit on an ideal boiler. You can't do that. But the standard pipe after the elbow, so that would just slot into there, it's just a push fit. They come in meter lengths, but you will need to bracket them top and bottom. So the standard plume kit normally comes with your turret, elbow or whatever, the terminal, comes with this pipe, couple of clips, and then it normally comes with an elbow on the top which you can turn obviously no more than 45 degrees to the wall. So that's your plume management kit. Again, like everything in this video, you must follow the manufacturer's instructions, because I can't stress anymore how different they all are. Even though glowworm is part of the valent group, you'll need to check and use the valent stuff on valent and the glowworm on glowworm. You can't interchange the systems, because if you put the wrong system on, it's at risk. Now let's have a quick look at terminal guards. Now we've just been talking about plume management kits. Now if the actual air part or the main part of the FLUES system is lower than 2 meters off the ground, it's going to require a terminal guard, and they're now manufacturing special terminal guards where it's already cut out for us to allow the plume management system to go through the terminal guard. Now the terminal guards were originally designed to stop people getting burnt if the flue was lower than 2 meters, but the flue temperatures on new condensing boilers is incredibly low now, and you won't get burnt from it. They're made of plastic at the end of the day, so the terminal guard there is to protect it, to stop it getting damaged now, rather than somebody getting burnt. But it still needs to have 50mm clearance all the way around the flue and to the front of the flue for non-condensing boilers, but you'll find new condensing boilers we need a lot more than that 50mm at the front. So what happens in winter time, because the products of combustion are water vapour, these water vapours are freezing on the terminal guards. So we do have now special terminal guards which are plastic coated and longer as well, to allow this products of combustion not to freeze on the terminal guard. And again, if you're sticking a flue out this far, you ain't going to get a terminal guard to fit on that. So even though condensing boilers are low temperature, if the flue is less than 2 meters, you will still need a terminal guard. And if you are still using a plume management kit and the main part of the flue is less than 2 meters, you're still going to need one. So that's terminal guards. Now, some boiler manufacturers allow you to go horizontal through a roof. Obviously, if the boiler manufacturer says no white showing, then you won't be able to do this. But you still need to leave 300mm from the roof to the air inlet side underneath the flue. Otherwise, you could get snow, rain or debris coming into the air intake. So this flue we've been looking at is actually 300 to the bottom of the products of combustion out, not the air in, and it's also taken from the guttering, not even the roof. So this doesn't meet manufacturer's instructions. And the last flue type we're going to be looking at is the vertical flue system. So this is probably the least liked installation of any gas engineer, because you've got to get on the roof to do it. Now this black part of the flue is a set height. Now some manufacturers say it should be 300 from here to the pitch of the roof. Some say it's 400 on the angle of the pitch of the roof. But you don't cut this black piece at all, and then that would sit in your weather collar and your weather slate on the roof, depending on the pitch of your roof, depends on which one you would use. But you can cut the white part down, but you can't cut the black part down. So that's what the flue system looked like, and again it would need clipping correctly in the loft. A change of direction. Manufacturers say for this type of flue we should be looking at 1 metre, even though the regs say maximum of 1.8 metres apart. So again, follow the guidelines from the manufacturer on where we put the clips, but it needs to be properly secure, otherwise next engineer who comes along is probably going to find it's disconnected. Now here's a couple of vertical flues which are installed incorrectly. So you can see from this first picture we've got plenty of white showing on the flue. No matter what the manufacturer is for this flue, we should not be seeing any white part of the flue. It should be fitting flush with the weather colour. And again, if we look at this one, it's got loads of white showing and it's too close to the wall. Should be at least 500mm away from the wall. So again, we must follow manufacturer's instructions, and I can't understand why these flues get installed incorrectly. Now, the main installation problem you're going to find with vertical flues is what's here behind me. Now, the biggest problem we've got is Velux windows. So you can see on the drawing here, the blue area is the Velux window. The shaded area around the window is the distances you cannot install the vertical flue to. And this is not just for room sealed appliances, this is for open flued as well. So you can see from the bottom of the shaded area to the bottom of the Velux window, it's 2 meters. And then all around the other area is 600mm. So Velux windows can become a problem. And they become a big problem if the Velux window is fitted after the flue has been installed. So just watch out for that one. And the other problem we've got is dormers. On average, most vertical flues need to be at least 1.5 meters away from a dormer window. And again, manufacturer's instructions will help you on the way with that. Now, before we move on to flues and voids, I just want to show you this last picture. Can somebody tell me why this vertical flue has been installed in this position? Now this vertical flue should be at least 500mm away from a wall what is non-combustible, or 1 meter away from a wall what is combustible. I just don't get why this flue has been installed like this. Why did they not use a Plume Management Kit? Comments below if you know why. So, like I've just said, let's finish off before we sum up with looking at flues and voids. Now, again, GasSafe have issued a technical bulletin, and the technical bulletin, which is its 3rd edition, is 008, and it came out on the 1st of April 2013. And this will help us diagnose any unsafe situations when we find room sealed appliance flues boxed in, basically. So on the back, appendix 2, there's a flow chart for us to follow to see how we're going to categorise these flues. Basically, it's at risk. So let's have a closer look at appendix 2 and how big these inspection hatches need to be and where they need to be placed. Now, this technical bulletin on flues and voids is for boilers which are already installed. So this has been designed for pre-installed appliances. But if you're installing a brand new boiler or replacing an existing boiler, you must follow the building regulations, the manufacturer's instructions and the British standards. But I couldn't find anything in any manufacturer's instructions about flues and voids. Put some comments down below if you can point me to where you've seen it in manufacturer's instructions. So like I say, these flues and voids, this is all about pre-existing. So it says there's a couple of things we can do. One of them is fit a CO monitoring system. but that CO monitoring system has to shut the gas off to the appliance if it detects carbon monoxide. Are you going to put that in? Not a chance. So then you can put inspection hatches. So these inspection hatches cannot affect the fire resistance of the property. So you can't just drill holes willy-nilly. So they're pre-made fire resistant hatches, and they need to be 300 millimeters, at least 300 millimeters square, so you can get your head in and have a look. And you need to install these hatches at every change of direction and no more than 1.5 meters away from a joint, basically, so you can actually see the joints from the hatch. So that's basically flues in voids. And if you do find a flue in a void, you need to follow this appendix 2, but basically it says at risk the job. But because you're at risk in it and the customer says you're not turning it off, then you can only then bring the attention to the customer that they are contravening the regulations, and they could get prosecuted if something happened. But you need to fill in the paperwork, you need to issue the warning notice, you need to put the sticker on the boiler, but if they tell you you're not turning the gas supply off to the appliance, then just note it down in your paperwork, because it's at risk, not immediately dangerous. So let's sum up. So hopefully what we've gained from this quite a long video is that we must follow the manufacturer's instructions for the appliances to be able to install them correctly, especially the flue systems. A lot of engineers seem to class them all as exactly the same. Kind of the building regulations do. They say 300 away from an opening into a building, 300 from an internal or an external corner, 200 mil from eaves. They give the standards, but there are some boiler manufacturers who tweak those little figures to allow us to install their boilers where we shouldn't really be putting them in. So, if you've liked this video, why don't you give me a thumbs up or leave a constructive comment down below. If you've not subscribed to my channel, then please subscribe because it helps, and don't forget to hit that notification bell because we release videos mainly on Mondays and Wednesdays. But this isn't all I've got left to say. Let's have a look at this final video, and then thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one, guys. Cheers. And finally, I want to finish with this flue. And this is not a joke, guys. This is actually what one of my ex-trainees found on a job. So they found the backseat boiler was fluing into the conservatory. And basically the customers were told to keep the windows open when the boiler was running. I just can't believe anybody would be that stupid to tell them that, or that stupid to believe them. How dangerous is this?